Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast, where we explore our shared love for watching and discussing movies, recorded in the late after-work hours, often in lieu of a good night's rest. I'm Emilio.
I'm Julian.
And I'm Madeline. The three of us are colleagues at a Midtown Manhattan music school. Yes, music is what brings us together, but movies are what keep us together, talking at the end of the night. So we've created some order to this ongoing trend by recording these conversations, considering an overarching theme while we cycle through 5 unique guidelines for engagement.
You can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. Seriously, we would love to hear from you. And you can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok for updates, highlights, clips, and other visual supplements to the audio we record at the handle Sleepless Cinematic Pod.
In addition to these main episodes, we record and release bonus one-off episodes as we see fit. While we do this, you, the listener, can count on the three of us doing what we've grown to love, foregoing sleep, for a discussion about movies every other week.
And this week, we continue our current cycle of unorthodox holiday movies. In keeping with last year's conceit, each entry in this cycle will be a suggestion box episode, or Madeline, what did you call it? The gift box?
Suggestion gift box.
Thank you. Suggestion gift box, where one of us would elect a film for the group to discuss. At least one of us will be seeing this movie for the first time, and differing opinions may or may not be held among us.
And that film for this episode is Hook, the 1991 film directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Dustin Hoffman as the titular Captain Hook, alongside Robin Williams as a grown-up Peter Pan, known by the name Peter Banning in his ordinary life in the film. And this is a spiritual sequel to the classic children's story written by J.M. Barrie.
And Hook happens to be a suggestion not from the three of us, but from our guest today. One of the hardest working thespians on the scene. He's a 2-time Tony nominee with a resume that you could put up against any working actor today. Personally, I know him best when he took the baton from Brian Darcy James and played Nick Bottom in Something Rotten. I've said it before, almost verbatim on this podcast, and I'll continue to say it. I love that show. I absolutely loved our guest in this role as well. He was lights out. He's also played leads in Broadway and regional productions of Chaplin, Honeymoon in Vegas, Shrek, Noises Off, Mary Poppins, Beetlejuice, Little Shop of Horrors, and Mrs. Doubtfire, just to name a few. And he's just come off a run of performing in Dear Evan Hansen at the Mooney in St. Louis this last summer. And he's fresh off of playing Applegate in a production of Damn Yankees at Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. We are so lucky to have him back here, and we cannot wait to get into this movie with him. He's such a super talent and a mensch to boot. Rob McClure, welcome back to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast.
I'm so happy to be here.
Hey, we're happy to have you back.
We're so happy to have you.
This is always a treat for us. And like was said before, the last time we had you on, we were talking Oscar winners that were in comedies. And kind of towards the end of our episode, we were talking about performances that we individually thought were Oscar worthy in comedies. And you, I believe, brought up Dustin Hoffman in this film and asked us in that moment. You said, hey, look, if you guys are ever going to talk Hook, give me a call. And here we are.
The second that you asked, I have my my toy box from when I was a little kid. It's like a Ninja Turtle toy box from Sears. I think a lot of little kids had it.
Excellent.
But I went digging through it and I knew that I had kept one of my Hook trading cards.
Ooh.
Which the people at home who are listening are not going to be able to see it, but I'm currently showing them my Hook trading card with Dustin Hoffman and Robin Williams on it.
Wow.
That I have kept all these years.
That is amazing. No, that's definitely finding the socials right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. So this movie has a special place in your heart. We are really, really excited to get into Hook, which should not be confused with a film called Catch and Release, which is a film from 2006. This is a Jennifer Garner-led rom-com that is written and directed by Susanna Grant. And it actually has Kevin Smith in like just an acting role. Kind of forgettable movie, not to be confused with Hook.
Yeah, there's no hook, line, and sinker analogy to be made here, arguably. And this film, Hook, which is derived from the classic story of Peter Pan, is not to be confused with a number of other films derived from that legendary tale, among them Finding Neverland.
Good point.
The biographical fantasy film directed by Mark Forster from 2004, starring Johnny Depp as J.M. Barrie. Has anyone here seen this movie?
No.
No, but I know that it was also a Broadway show briefly. I think it closed rather quickly, unfortunately.
Because I haven't seen this movie either, but I remember being a young kid and seeing posters for it at the time that it was out, and just not being able to comprehend the idea of like an adult story that was about something to do with Peter Pan. I'll probably get this movie now. As far as I understand, it's like some kind of magical realist take on J.M. Barrie's life, not to be confused with Hook.
Yes, and although Granny Wendy Angela Moira Darling must be beside herself with worry over the return of her great-grandchildren, this film is not to be confused with Don't Worry, Darling.
This is very true.
Oh, good one.
Yeah,
Thank you. I was proud of that.
Yeah, rightfully. We covered that about 5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And that might be about as much as we say about it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't have anything to add.
Absolutely.
Listeners, if you want to go check that out, it's in a 2-shot episode with A League of Their Own. Might seem like an odd combination, but we managed to make them work together.
We make the case for the combo.
Yes.
I think successfully.
That's cool. Rob, if you have anything, great. And if not, we will move on.
Oh my gosh, not to be confused with grumpy old men and their tireless journey in hooking Catfish Hunter, which they eventually do, but they lovingly release. Spoiler alert.
I like this. And this is grumpy old men like from the 90s, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, right?
Yeah, also made into a musical, funny enough.
Oh, really?
That they did up at a Gunkwit Playhouse in the hopes that it would have a transfer. I don't know what the state of it is, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was like some big number called Hook in Act 2 as they're trying to catch the fish.
Well, no, yeah, we're talking Hook today, the Steven Spielberg directed film, and I'll just say it really briefly here. This movie follows a grown-up version of Peter Pan, who now goes by the name of Peter Banning. He is a stressed, work-consumed, risk-averse lawyer who has forgotten his magical past in Neverland. And when Captain Hook kidnaps his children, Peter is forced to return to the world that he left behind and rediscover the imagination, courage, and childlike wonder that he once embodied. Guided by Tinkerbell and the Lost Boys, he relearns to fight, fly, and crow, ultimately confronting Hook to save his family and reclaim his identity as Peter Pan.
Yep, that's the movie I watched.
Very cool. Well, as was stated before, this is a suggestion box episode. Rob, you were the one to have suggested it to us.
Yeah.
Why don't you kick us off? What is Hook to you? What's your personal history with this film?
I mean, I've seen this movie more times than I could possibly count. I could watch it on the inside of my eyelids with my eyes closed. It was really formative for me. And, I saw it when I was 9. So I was like right bang in the age of his son. And now I'm probably the age of him, if not a little bit older. I'm 43 now. And one of the things that has stayed with me and kept me going back to watch this is that I think it has created, I want to say a healthy paranoia, but I'm not sure how healthy it is. I now am a parent, and I have a very strong paranoia of my child being aware of me not paying attention to them on my phone because of this movie.
Yes. Interesting.
And what's so funny is that it was the very, very beginnings of a cellular telephone.
Yeah.
But it is, even then in 1991, it is rivaling paying attention to the world, and it didn't have a screen on it. Like it was already a problem.
There weren't nearly as many distractions on it as there are now.
Yes, and yet that is such a strong theme in the movie to the point where it literally, the film's resolution comes with it being thrown out the window. And it really has. I have a weird paranoia about not being there for my kids. I remember there's that beautiful crane shot when Robin Williams runs up the hill at the Little League field, and the crane comes up, and they've all left. And
Yeah.
for some reason, both my 9-year-old brain and my 43-year-old brain, that's a terrifying image to me on both ends of it, being the father and the son. And I think with all of the wonder that this movie provides, it's that I think has kept me going back over and over again.
I really like that. I think that one of the interesting things that this movie has is this balance of the childlike wonder, but there is this very realistic depiction of what it's like to be an overworked, overstressed parent. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Rob. Like, this is something that I live with a bit of that paranoia as well. I like to keep my phone out of my hands when I play with my son, but I still sometimes feel like I am guilty of having it or looking at it or trying to finish a text or trying to finish an email. And it kind of breaks my heart. And I always try to tell myself, I'm like, well, like, I guess this is like the world we live in, but I am with you. That is a huge part of it for me. I have a few other thoughts on this, but Madeline, what about you? What's hooked you?
Yeah, I'd seen this before. I watched this movie when I want to say I was probably like 10 or so. I was not quite born when this came out. I was born in 92. But I watched this as a kid and I have not seen it since then. And I actually remember it freaking me out a little bit as a kid. And in general, I think that the things that freaked me out in movies as a kid were less like scary monsters and more like talk about mortality, weirdly.
Yeah.
And rewatching this, when he regains his memory and he's kind of reflecting on like him being pulled away, running away as a baby in a carriage. And he has this line that's something like, I didn't want to grow up because when you grow up, you get old and then you die.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's the line that freaked me out as a kid. I was like, oh, wait, no, you're right. That's true. And now I know that as I have to think about that as a 9-year-old. And so it's not a movie that I had a lot of fondness for or ever really wanted to revisit, I think for that reason. But I had a lot of fun watching this as an adult. It didn't freak me out nearly as much. I had a good time revisiting it. And I think I've overcome that like very mild trauma of having to face my childhood mortality.
Very interesting takeaway, but knowing you, that's very on brand for Madeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or I guess childhood sense of mortality, because child mortality, I mean, that sounds very dire.
Sure. Yes, that is true. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I'm the sole newcomer here to the movie. I came in very fresh to this because I had never even seen like a clip from this movie. I was going in quite cold. Where I was not going in cold was in the sense of like knowing what it generally was and it's some stuff about its reception. You know, seeing like Dustin Hoffman inhabit that role of Captain Hook, it really was new to me watching it. Wow. So in many ways, I think this was ideal as an experience for the movie, especially having missed it as a kid.
Yeah, I think I had kind of forgotten who played Hook in this. I wasn't really thinking about it actively. And so when he is revealed, I'm like, holy shit. I did not remember who this was.
There's a lot of that in this movie.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, when David Crosby showed up, I was like, is that that has to be him.
I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of unmistakable.
Yeah. And then knowing as much as I do about Spielberg now, watching it post Fabelmans, I mean, I almost feel like the Fabelmans gives modern viewers like a almost unfair advantage in understanding Spielberg.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
Which is not a drag at the movie. I think it's a great movie, and I'm glad to know what I know from it. But it's such a skeleton
the case
key.
With so much Spielberg, like I think that now that's the case when you watch E.T. or when you watch Close Encounters. It's like all of these post Fabelmans, I think, are read a little in a slightly different light with like more context.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll get a little more into opinions and such as this conversation goes on, but generally I enjoyed the movie. I can definitely see where, to some tastes the movie would have been a little more polarizing, but whether it's because of my knowledge of Spielberg or just general open-mindedness, I had a good time with it.
Cool. I would love to come back to that Spielberg point you were talking about with the Fabelmans, because Spielberg is one of those guys, like if you read like Variety magazine and a lot of the trade stuff, I think at the time. The Fabelmans put it on film, but I think that a lot of the narratives around Spielberg were actually publicly known. And
I think the rumors were out there.
Right. And so him as a choice for director for this kind of movie is both super duper on brand and also almost put a target on the back of this movie where people were like, oh, then this has to be the definitive Peter Pan film because it's Peter Pan directing it, essentially. Yeah, for me, I would say being a child of the 90s, like this was a quintessential VHS. It was not in my house, but it was in all my friends' houses. And I feel like I saw this movie in bits and pieces when I was younger. This is a great movie to have a VHS of where you can kind of bounce around and find the really fun scenes. And I remember I watched it, I think a little older, maybe like around 10 or 11. And I was kind of surprised that there is so much narrative and exposition between all of the food fights and Peter flying around and the stuff on the Jolly Roger.
It's so interesting because I think you do make a point that I agree with and that I've heard before. There are stretches of this movie that seem like they shouldn't be fun for kids. But then I talked to a lot of adults who are like, I loved this movie as a kid. So I think it's interesting as an adult trying to decipher what do kids care about? Like, what do kids want to see? Would a kid like the first 20 minutes of this movie? I mean, maybe, because a lot of kids love this movie. But I agree with you that if I'm thinking of it from an adult's perspective, I would assume that kids wouldn't like parts of this. But a lot of them do.
That's true.
I do have to say, I'm a big sucker for great dramatic structure. And I think part of the thrill of watching him fly for the first time is because of the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we get there dramatically without seeing who he was before. And also, this movie has that wonderful thing that we touched on a little bit last time. It has the appropriate amount of resistance to the idea. It takes the protagonist a long time to buy into the magic. And for me, it takes the appropriate amount of time. Nothing bothers me more than a character who seemingly has their feet on the ground buying into something ridiculous too fast.
Right.
It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And this character explores every other possible option.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing this. I'm drunk. I'm dying. I'm having a heart attack.
Right.
I'm like, he explores every other possibility. Even when he's looking Captain Hook in the face.
Right.
He's going, I'm not Peter Pan, because that would be ridiculous.
Right.
And the amount of tension built up because of that resistance then explodes in the moment when he finds his happy thought, right? And I think there's a bit of a pressure cooker that I don't know how much it delivers on kids consciously, but I do think it's working on a subconscious level that maybe pays off later. I've been thinking about showing this movie to my kid, and I sort of thought, oh, she's 6. Is that okay? And I sort of fast forwarded, like I said, behind my eyelids. And I'm going yeah. No, that'll be great. That'll be great. And then I remembered Rufio's death.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, check, please. We can't do that yet. She can't.
It's kind of crazy how this movie, so much of the fighting is fun and they're shooting eggs at pirates. And then a child is stabbed to death. It does kind of come out of nowhere. To my point about this movie making me reckon with mortality, it isn't the kind of movie you would think would have children actually dying.
And it also does let you know that despite not aging in Neverland, there is danger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That I think is an important point in the larger scheme of that world. It's you don't evade death completely there. It is possible
you're not going to die of natural causes, but you can be stabbed by a pirate or eaten by a crocodile.
Yeah, that the adventure has stakes to it. It's not just playtime. There can be consequence. And I know that for my daughter, it would be particularly devastating for Rufio. And also because Rufio has voiced Prince Zuko on Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is her favorite animated series ever. And if the voice of Prince Zuko dies, she would be crushed.
Yeah, I mean, Dante Brasco has a pretty impressive voice acting, in particular, credits.
Yeah, he's hung around, man. I gotta say, as a kid, Rufio was on the Mount Rushmore of coolest movie characters
He's
I had
so
seen.
cool. I think he's really consequential to this film and like what makes the film work. I think particularly for a kid.
Absolutely, yeah. And this was not lost on me as a kid. I'm just going to say this. I dug that he was not like a white kid, that he was, I don't know, maybe Filipino or South Asian. Like there was something unique about him. And one of the things too I noticed with Neverland is it's like really diverse.
Yeah.
There's like all types of kids there. So I just think it's a really cool thing for a kid to see that, you know, the leader of this group is a minority. Like he's still kind of a badass.
Yeah.
But also, I know a lot of women in my generation whose like sexual awakenings were the Fox and Robin Hood and Rufio.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, I love that.
Both movies about iconic children's characters that, you know, don't exactly follow the rules.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
But Steven Spielberg has spoken about his personal connection to Peter Pan originating in his own childhood. He was read these stories by his mother, and this manifests in the story appearing in E.T., where the mother is reading this story to young Drew Barrymore. So I was curious about what each of your connections are to the Peter Pan story, the original Disney film or the books, and if it affected your enjoyment of Hook in any way, either as a kid or now.
That's such a great question. When I was a kid, I knew about the Peter Pan story in general. I had seen the Disney film.
Yeah.
But I had not seen the Broadway musical. I had not seen, Kathy Rigby or Mary Martin or any of that stuff. And I will say, as I got older and started to do theater and saw Peter Pan, so much more of the imagery of this movie started to land on me. Like there's that great shot when Nana is barking at the ship, Hook coming.
Mm-hmm.
And Toodles is asleep on the couch. And there's this wonderful panning shot over to Toodles barking on the sofa as he's hearing Nana bark outside. And it pans past the Michael's top hat and glasses and the teddy bear, which from the musical is such an iconic thing of them like swinging with those costume pieces. Like, so I've become more and more aware of just how referential Hook is the older I get. But it totally worked for me at 9 years old when I had very vague reference of Peter Pan as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that when you talk about vague reference of Peter Pan, that's mostly the frequency that I've operated on with the story. This happens a lot with certain types of IP, for lack of a better term, for me anyway, where like something will be so entrenched in the culture that you kind of assume you know more about it than you actually do. I made a little bit of an error in saying the story because it's more the aura of the character or characters in the story than the actual plot itself, because there's a lot I really can't say I know very well about it. And then like little referential things in Hook that I've picked up on from reading about and listening to the Blank Check episode about the movie, but that I would not have picked up on not knowing the source material, like particularly the whole thing about the crocodile.
Yeah.
And so like by the time that the crocodile related conclusion of this movie comes along, there had been enough establishment of it within that lore that I understood what they were going for, but I didn't know that reference beforehand.
Yeah, I actually rewatched the Disney Peter Pan after rewatching Hook because I felt like it had been so long since I'd seen Peter Pan that I was missing references like the crocodile and like the ticking in particular. And I rewatched it and it was like, oh, he's like swallowed an alarm clock and so he's ticking. Like I could have gotten there, but there were things like that I agree with you, Julian. I feel like I understand it, but I wasn't able to say like, oh yes, that comes from Peter Pan specifically.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily mind missing references the first time around. I mean, it gives you stuff to go back to. So, this exists with some sequels where they, if you go in without having seen whatever came before it, they kind of assume you know that stuff. And I think one of the marks of a really great sequel is that, you can go into it and still feel like you're staying afloat without having to know all of what came before it, what that it's referencing. I could see that argument being made for certain aspects of Hook. I didn't personally mind that, but yeah, there is definitely a degree to which it assumes some prior knowledge of the source material.
Yeah.
Sure.
Emilio, how about you? What's your connection with Peter Pan, if any?
Yeah, very surface level as well. I think, Julian, you used a great word for this, the aura of Peter Pan. I think that's actually one of the things that is sweet about this movie is I think it's very aware of Peter Pan as this mythic thing that is meant to represent something kind of flexible about not growing up, but also playing with it. I think it's one of the fun things about this movie, actually, is I think, as you said, Rob, if you know a little bit more about past adaptations or versions of Peter Pan in the media, you'll find certain things. Hook is very knowing of the lineage that it's come from and is a part of, but it stands alone.
Yeah, it's not a requirement.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but it is definitely richer if you do know those other references, because those references exist in the world of this movie. Like, their children are doing Peter Pan at their school.
Yes.
And John Williams has written a parody version of I Won't Grow Up. If you listen, they're singing like this, we want to be like Peter Pan. We don't want to grow up, which is I won't grow up. I won't grow up. I don't want to go to school. It's literally them probably not paying for the rights to the Mary Martin Peter Pan. And John Williams being like, I can knock out one of those.
Right.
But it's so clearly supposed to be that. I love that this movie exists within our world. Where you do know the Peter Pan story. People have probably seen the Disney movie, which in my mind makes it so much more delicious when Robin Williams is confronted with the reality that you're him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like one of us being told we're Peter Pan. You're like, that's a fictional character.
Yeah.
It's not just like, I forgot my magical past, but like, no, you're Harry Potter or whatever.
Right.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Exactly. I often talk about the appropriate level of amazement.
Yeah.
Do these characters have the appropriate level of amazement given what's going on? And nothing drives me crazier than watching some alien invasion movie where a UFO breaks the atmosphere and the government goes like, okay, let's formulate a plan on how to... And I'm like, wait, where's the person going, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, there's a UFO where? And it's real? Where are those people? Because I need those people to make me feel like it's happening in the same world that I live in. That's one of the reasons why I was such a big fan of Lost, the TV show, because even when things were completely batshit crazy, the characters within that world treated them as such. That's right. That's right.
That just makes me think of the mom in E.T.
Yes.
Yeah, she spends like an hour of the movie not even aware that E.T. is there. And
like,
then
there's an alien in her kitchen and she's just blind to it because why would you be aware of an alien in your kitchen?
That's right.
Yeah. When she does look right at E.T., then she's in disbelief.
It's like she looks at it and she goes like, oh, that's fun that you guys made something for Halloween is what she thinks first, which again goes back to what you said, Rob. The actually, I'm going to come back to that.
Yes, we would explore every other possibility before that reality. Right.
And when you're a kid, I think you're more likely, because you don't have as strong a grasp on reality as a kid, and you have more imagination, and you're more accepting of things breaking reality. You're the one that's going to find an alien in the backyard and being like, yes, or, get sent off to Neverland and be like, of course. Because you're a little more, you're not as solidified in the reality that we adults are in.
Sure.
Totally.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so Steven Spielberg has been vocal, even shortly after this movie's release, about how this is not a movie that he's particularly proud of. In an interview with Empire Magazine, almost 30 years after the movie's release, so this was in 2018, he said this, quote, I felt like a fish out of water making Hook. I didn't have confidence in the script. I had confidence in the first act, and I had confidence in the epilogue. I didn't have confidence in the body of it. I didn't know quite what I was doing, and I tried to paint over my insecurity with production value, and the more insecure I felt about it, the bigger and more colorful the sets became. And despite his misgivings, Spielberg was also quoted around this time. He was doing press for the BFG, so this is a couple years before. He said this, he said, quote, "I don't love Hook, but my kids do. There's a whole generation of young people who really appreciate the movie on a level far beyond what I put into it." And so I wanted to ask you guys, where might we align with Spielberg in finding some fault in this film? And where perhaps do we align with his kids in finding something to appreciate?
I think that, well, I had to think of the feeling that I got watching also for the first time last year when we did a similar series of episodes, Home Alone, which is, I mean, like I didn't get to that movie until the age of 27. So, think whatever you will about my childhood because of that.
I was in disbelief, actually, when you told me shortly before we did that you'd never seen Home Alone.
But I think what I felt watching that movie was like a balance of the adult side of me knowing where to be critical, but also like letting the kid in me just go along for the ride. Well, going back to this point of like how referential the movie is to its source material, I think it's a bit of a big ask for a kid to try and understand all of that. You don't usually get something that's this sort of spiritual sequel that is designed for kids. If there are like quibbles to be had with Hook, again, I don't really think it's in any issue of suspension of disbelief when it comes to the fantastical elements of the story, but maybe just in like a little bit of a confusion about who it's for. Because like that first act of the movie, I enjoy it a lot watching it as an adult, but I could understand if a kid doesn't really relate to that. Then again, it's Robin Williams who's playing this character who is a very kid-friendly actor.
Yeah.
So it's, there's that element. And I also felt like one scene in the movie, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but one scene in the movie that I think is maybe a little bit closer to polarizing amongst audiences is that whole exposition about Peter's upbringing, that it contains the scene with the carriage rolling away and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
The logic of time is a little hazy there. And that's another scene where I think it is asking, some of the audience in terms of what they understand from the source material. For me personally, it's not like those things chip away at the quality of the movie, but I guess I just, look at them with a little less of the abandon that I can look at a lot of the rest of the movie with.
I like that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, Julian, you had mentioned the first 30 minutes or so that you enjoyed, but you were curious, would a kid get this? And Dougie, my partner, he kind of said a similar thing. He was like, I think this movie takes too long to get to Neverland. I don't think I agree with that. I think it's just the right amount of time because it's such a long movie that I think that if we went any sooner, then the movie would actually just need to be shorter. I think, Rob, you made a really good point earlier of the beginning and then also the section in Neverland before he regains his memory are set up to give you catharsis when he regains his memory. And I think that there were parts of that section that I'm just so eager to get to a more fun Robin Williams that I push up against just a little bit. I don't love him being where are your parents? But I understand that it does feel necessary for the story. And this is not a critique. I think it's interesting how he starts to regain his memory, but it's it doesn't go all the way. Getting his happy thought for flying is the peak. He is fully back in. You still get the food fight scene where he's learning to imagine and he's finally starting to see things. He's remembering how to play. Yeah.
You're doing it, Peter. You're playing with us. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's not when it's fully back yet. He still struggles a little bit after that to fully get to that place, which I think is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, a really important thing happens between the two scenes that you're referencing. That's actually yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's exactly it. That baseball scene is when it really matters to Peter Banning that he give this an honest go.
Yeah.
The food fight scene is him almost being goaded into trying to play. And he goes there and it's fun, but it's when he realizes that he needs to go all the way to get his kids back that, Rob, you said, the stakes earlier, that there's stakes in this movie that you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I there are very few things I would fight Steven Spielberg on, but this is one of them. I think it's a great movie, and I think it highlights him being the reigning champion of getting believable performances out of children.
Oh yeah.
The work that his kids do throughout the film, particularly his son.
Oh dude, he's so good.
I think about the stuff with the baseball glove when he's talking to Wendy in the beginning and he's like, yeah, you use it to catch a baseball or take hot stuff out of the oven. You can hit your sister with it. It's so it feels improv to me. And it may have been
improv. Yeah, that was my read as well.
Spielberg is just the reigning champion of getting performances out of children. And I defy you to find a better performance of a child than the moment when he finally flips out on them on that phone call.
Oh,
Will you just
yes.
shut up?
Yeah.
And they cut to him, the son, who immediately goes, I'm sorry. And the little girl has this mouth tick that shows that she's scared. That is the most believable, most horrifyingly genuine thing. And if you look at any of his work with children, he just knows how to get them there. And from what I've heard, it's not abusive the way Chaplin used to be with Jackie Coogan and the kid, where it's lying to him about tragic things. He just knows how to talk to them.
It reminds me of that behind the scenes footage of E.T. with him and Drew Barrymore.
Totally.
For the scene where E.T. is dying in the home after it's kind of been taken over. And it's so gentle. And I can visualize something very similar with that scene in this movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would really make a case, go with me on this. I recently saw an interview with Anthony Hopkins where he was talking about acting. And he was saying, particularly when you're doing theater, but also with TV and movies, it's not always going to feel like this sparkly, oh my God, I was so in it. I was living that scene and magic happened and we caught this lightning in a bottle and something happened. He's like, that very, very rarely happens. He's like, the rest of the time, when you're convincing the audience that you are having that sparkly revelation when you're not, is what technique is for an actor. Your ability to convince an audience that you aren't thinking about your laundry accidentally when you might be is technique. Because if it was all oh my gosh, I'm just alive in this moment, you wouldn't be acting. You would literally just be living the moment. So your ability to convince us you are experiencing something when you are very clearly not is what technique is. Now, the reason I say that is because I want to extend that notion to Steven Spielberg. What I want to say to him is just because you felt a disconnect on this process doesn't mean that your technique wasn't landing. Because this is very iconically Spielberg. When you look at the work with the children, when you look at the catharsis, when you look at those panning shots, those establishing shots, whether it be the dagger on the door with the note, or the cinematography of it is so iconically him. And also just these childlike moments of wonder that we've come to expect in all of his movies. He was firing on all cylinders, and just because he was having a moment of insecurity, I want to defy him on it and go I think you're wrong. I think your technique was better than you think it was in that moment.
Very well said.
I really like that.
Yeah. I felt that watching it too, that it's the cinematography in particular, that combined with the John Williams score and a lot of the set pieces later on, especially when Peter arrives, when he meets up with the Lost Boys, but also when he learns how to fly again. This feels like classic Spielberg.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And it's on some level, it surprises me that this movie, I don't think that the classic sequences from this circulate quite on the level as those, or the bikes flying in E.T. Or, just 2 years later, you get Jurassic Park as the T-Rex breaking out of the electric fence there. Maybe it's a stretch to say they're on the same level, but it is Spielberg firing on all cylinders. I do feel comfortable saying that.
Yeah. I am with you that the happy thought moment in this movie is about as good as it's going to get from Spielberg. There's a really beautiful dissolve transition that happens. There's that shot of him holding his newborn. and then he picks his head up and it brings him back.
Oh.
That moment actually like gives me the chills.
Yep.
And then everything after, where all the Lost Boys are around him. And then I love the callback to putting the line in the sand.
That's very good.
Oh,
is
yeah.
so good. And yeah, that to me is like about as good as it gets for Spielberg. So I do want to mention a couple things.
I'm
not
curious.
to like bring the vibe down on this, but there are like certain elements of this movie that I understand why people ding it for.
It was Phil Collins as the inspector. It took you out of it.
Oh, totally, man. 100%.
Against all odds.
Yes.
I had to.
I feel like there's something about the Tinkerbell character in this movie.
It comes up finally.
Okay.
We have not talked about her since saying who's starring in this movie an hour ago.
There's something about the exposition that has to come through her character. And I think the way that she interacts, I feel the distance that she has with everything else that's happening in the story.
And perhaps the physical distance of Julia Roberts and everyone else on set.
Exactly.
That's
The
fascinating.
movie kind of stops in a way that I don't think is a compliment for me when Tinkerbell is really present in it. I think there's just something about the construction of the character, how they chose to represent her, that is just like not doing the performance very many favors.
Because it's such a departure from typical Peter Pan, like how Tinkerbell is typically presented. Like she's normally silent. You know, she normally does all of her communication through her body. And people still like Peter and even Hook. Again, I rewatched the Disney Peter Pan for this. People still understand her. They're not like, what are you saying, you small woman? But in this film, it's a very interesting departure from that. So they have to characterize her in a way that none of these other adaptations have really done in the same way.
Right.
Yeah, it's almost like typically Tinkerbell would be a little more of like an R2D2. You know, if Peter Pan is Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, maybe. I hear the point you're making.
Yeah.
To me, it's a little bit of a sign of the times. Like I feel like it's Spielberg doing Peter Pan. You got Robin Williams. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's so funny that you said that because, you know, if you look at what Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins and the Pirates and even what Robin Williams is doing at the top of the movie, that family unit, what's happening at Wendy's house, what's happening at number 14, like it feels out of time. It feels like a timeless story that is happening at any moment.
Yeah.
There are two things that remind me that this movie is 1991. One is like the Casio keyboard patch when they're walking through the office in the beginning, and it's like
Nice.
And Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
For some reason, tonally, she's doing something that takes me out of the timeless moment that it's in. And I don't know whether it lies in what she was given to say or who she was as an icon in that moment.
Yeah, like she's one of the biggest stars in the world and one of the most talked about people in the world, also in her personal life.
Yeah, it's like her, you know, in the wake of Pretty Woman, you know, so that she is just, you know, someone that, you know, any big name will want to cast. It's like, yes, get her in your movie. And I sort of felt like the way that Tinkerbell was portrayed in Hook, you can feel the pacing of the movie changes a little bit when she comes in. It feels a little bit faster. It almost feels like you have the typical pace of the movie, and then it's all just kind of like scrunched together while she's there before it goes back to its usual frequency. And sometimes like that, I've noticed other characters in other types of movies that can do that to varying effects. I feel like one of the best cases of that being done is in Beetlejuice. When Michael Keaton comes on and plays the character of Beetlejuice, I feel like it's the perfect amount of ramp up. And I feel like one of the worst cases of that being done is with Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I am not saying that what is done with Julia Roberts here is on that level. But that's, you know, a case where like there's the cadence the movie's on, and then like every time Jar Jar speaks, it kind of ramps it up in a way that ruins the flow of the movie. I think that this is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, to me, I think the other thing too, and I'll say sign of the times as well, it's like, I don't understand why Tinkerbell has to have some sort of amorous thing necessarily with Peter Pan.
I was thinking that too.
She has that in Peter Pan too.
That's always been a thing. Yeah,
It's
she's always the other
thing,
woman, right?
It's so odd to me. Rewatching Peter Pan, there are several things that struck me where I'm like, maybe I don't like the Disney Peter Pan. It's like, I think watching it as like a girl is not fun because Wendy's kind of like a spoil sport. Like she kind of constantly is like, Peter, no, be careful. And like, also has to be rescued a lot. And then Tinkerbell is constantly trying to sabotage the two of them. It's like very odd. They're pitted against each other in a way that I find very weird for a kid's movie. Yeah. And I'm glad that they depart from that in this. But then I think they still keep that amorous, those feelings that always existed, but now they actually make the two of them kiss, which is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that moment has one smaller moment in it that kind of took me out of the movie this time, which is that Peter like forgets that he has kids when that was supposed to be his happy thought. For a moment there, I was like, whoa, wait, no, don't do that. The movie lost me for a second there. Overall, like, you're not going to hear me say too many bad things about it. Mm-hmm. But if I want to play that mental exercise of being like, where did this go off the rails for Steven Spielberg, the guy who's meticulously going over this movie and trying to figure out like how to make the best movie? That's one moment where I'm like, oh yeah, like this movie didn't need that. Or like, no, Peter at this moment needs to be really committed. The next thing he has to do is go get his kids. He doesn't have to be blinded momentarily by Tinkerbell, becoming life-size and kissing him.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I'll let you go first, Rob, but I have thoughts on that too.
As a huge like fan of the Peter Pan universe and somebody who's like gone back and read the Barrie and like has immersed myself in that world.
Yeah, please tell me.
I'm working on something that is within that universe. So I have been dramaturgically very much living in the Neverland world. What I think is interesting to that point, Emilio, is that the forgetting works both ways when it comes to Neverland. Yeah. That if you're away from it too long, you forget about it. And if you're in it too long, you forget about home. And I think that's what's happening in that moment is that you're doing it, Peter. You're playing. You're with us. You're here. Oh my God, I remembered my happy thought, which does happen to be home. But now that I'm flying and fighting pirates, it's pulling me. And it does it to his son as well.
Yeah, it does it to his kid. And in the Disney film, it does it to those kids. Like they forget their mother very briefly. Wendy doesn't. But I think Michael says something to Wendy like, "Oh, you're my mother," and she's like, "No, have you forgotten our actual mother?" So I think it's interesting to hear that from you, Rob, as someone that is immersed in this. That it's an effect of the setting.
Mm-hmm. It is part of the effect of Neverland, and I think it's a larger commentary from J.M. Barrie about
like moderation.
Truly. And it's one of those moments where you go like, oh, this is a British author, right? Everything in moderation, right? Yes, we do have to remember to play, but not too much, right? Not too much. Right. It's there are limitations.
I think there's this push and pull in this film where it's not like the solution for Peter is to be Peter Pan, the 10-year-old. Like that's actually not what's going to get him back to his kids. Like he needs to be able to tap into that part of himself, but he needs to be able to stay solid as well in who he is as an actual adult. And I think the fact that he spends so much time on this part of it, he then occasionally needs to be pulled to the other pole because where he's actually going to accomplish his mission is in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you both
not
for
to
that.
rewind too much. But to your point earlier, I just want to make, there was one point I wanted to make that I thought was an interesting one.
Please do.
When we were talking about Tinkerbell and her sort of place in this story, I do remember even when I was like 9, you get to the house and you meet Wendy. And I remember going like, oh my God, that old lady is Wendy. And then you get to Neverland and you go, oh my God, it's Captain Hook. Oh my God, it's Smee. Oh my God, it's the Lost Boys. And then I remember even at 9 going, oh, it's Julia Roberts. Not, oh my God, it's Tinkerbell.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, I think there's, for some reason, who she was at that moment.
Julia Roberts in a bad wig.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what about that combination of character and time and place, because we all know she's a phenomenal performer. There's just something about the something in the universe at that moment that just people, I think, just were set up to not buy that particular aspect.
Yeah. And they bring this up on Blank Check, the fact that she is having to like act basically against nothing. Like she's on a blue screen, like she's not on set with them. Apparently Hoffman came like once to read with her. I think Williams did like once or twice, but like she's very disconnected from the rest of the cast. And so I just think it's a really tall order for her.
I think you're spot on.
It's also not something that people were doing a lot then. It was new. Like now people do it all the time. But at that point, it's like how many other people had to do this?
Yeah. And how was she supposed to blend tonally? Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So you guys are going right where I felt as well. That's where I'm like, Spielberg, I think, how he constructed that character, how he chose to characterize it, how he chose to film it and present it. It didn't serve Julie Roberts, the actress. It didn't really serve Tinkerbell, the character. And so, yeah, I'll go there. But I love everything you guys said, and I totally agree.
I think if she was on set, seeing what Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins were doing on that carpeted staircase, it would have been a different performance.
I think so too. How do you guys feel? Can we start comparison corner?
I'm down.
Alrighty.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot said about movies that this has common details with already, but I think there's been a bit of an emphasis towards kid-friendly entertainment to this greater point we're making about how this movie can cater to both kids and adults. There was one more meant for adults movie that I thought of a lot while watching this. And well, it's very serendipitous that it should come up because it was one of the movies that we covered the last time we had you on, Rob, which was City Slickers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love this.
Thanks. Yeah.
Go for
particularly the opening act of the movie where you just have, I mean, I think the midlife crisis angle is emphasized more in City Slickers, but you can say that Peter Banning is having that too. And that, it just plants the seed that the core of this story is to resolve, some kind of issue in his family life. And that also that it's a comedian playing the character. So there's this tears of a clown element. And then, the journey itself, I mean, that they take on very different tones, but there is this shift into genre that, I mean, I think if you know what you're getting into, it's going to be there, but it's not necessarily evident in the first act of either movie. Some really fantastic set pieces. I mean, one of the other great quotes you gave us last time, Rob, was "They did that," and there are a lot of "they did that" moments in Hook. If not like creating things in real world scenarios, still it's incredible what they can do with sets too. Yeah, I had to think of City Slickers while watching Hook.
Yeah,
same year.
Jim,
Oh, yeah. Speaking of sets, I mean, Dougie pointed out, I already had mentioned the Robert Altman Popeye, which Robin Williams also stars in. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you see the pirate village in this, Dougie was like, that's the village from Altman's Popeye, pretty much. They have an extremely similar kind of energy to it. The interesting note about the Altman Popeye set is that it's still exists in Malta and you can visit it as a theme park.
Amazing.
Which I think is not the case for this set, but that would be fun.
Oh, I wish it was.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No, this set honestly feels like an amusement park or something.
They don't even.
And can we also talk about the reveal of the set, which is through the keyhole of the hole in Robin Williams' bed sheet that they carry him to Neverland in?
Yes.
And he puts his finger in and tears the sheet open, and that is the reveal of that universe. And it was just breathtaking.
It's akin to somebody, going under a sheet or something and just imagining a world. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. It's on the nose in the best way possible, I think.
For sure. Yeah. I'm going to go for a hear me out comparison.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I got one of those too.
I love it.
So for a hear me out comparison on Hook, I'm going to go with James Cameron's Aliens. Okay. So the more I thought about this,
love
the
it.
better I felt. Okay. So they're both big, successful blockbuster movies that feature visually compelling practical effects and elaborate sets, as was just mentioned. A lot of they did that. There are riffs and personal reimaginings of existing IP. We have main characters that have a past that they have turned their back on. The Marines in Aliens are basically the Lost Boys, and they're about as mature as them for most of the movie. And the aliens are kind of like the pirates. And I also love that both lead antagonists assume a like parental status.
The protagonists.
No, I'm saying the antagonists.
Oh,
here.
okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah, there's like a parental status that they kind of have in the movie. Also, I couldn't help but notice that both movies play around with like a blade in a hand, right? That Hook has lost his hand to Peter, but Bishop, the synthetic, does that like speedy knife between the fingers routine.
Right.
So might actually claim someone's hand if he glitches or something. And these are movies about the main characters confronting fears. For Ripley, it's facing the aliens. For Peter, it starts as fear of heights, actually. And the prize for both of their journeys is to be a loving, caring parent. And it's right on Front Street in Hook with how Peter like has to win back Jack and Maggie. And for Aliens, it actually is like part of the backstory that was removed in the theatrical cut. But Ripley had a daughter named Amanda that died when she was drifting through space, and her ability to reclaim motherhood through Newt, which is the little girl that survives in the colony, that becomes like her happy thought, to use the parlance of Hook.
Good one.
That's what helps her fly and buckle up and defeat the big bad aliens.
Nice.
I think this works quite well.
Oh, my wife is gonna love that. My wife is obsessed with Alien.
Alien and
I'm happy
Aliens, it was one of our first episodes.
Yeah,
We
third
talked
one we
about
ever did.
those.
Yeah, love it.
I also have a hear me out comparison, or
do
go with
it.
me on this. I
Cool.
think it's possible that Julian's the only person that's seen this. Emilio, I know you haven't. We'll find out about Rob. But the way that this film is structured around Peter regaining his memory and his powers, and before then being like pretty much useless for much of the film, made me think of the Dougie arc in the Twin Peaks Return.
Oh, yeah, I
Because-
can see that.
Because the first time I watched The Return, I struggled a little bit with that character because I was so eager to get more of Agent Cooper as we have grown so used to in the original 2 seasons. And as I've rewatched The Return, I've really grown to love Dougie as a character and this arc. And I think it's kind of an exercise in patience and accepting that David Lynch is always going to defy kind of what you expect of him. And I think it's a similar thing in Hook, how there is a bit of patience required in waiting for Peter to reach that catharsis, as we've already kind of talked about. So I thought about the Twin Peaks Return.
I like
love
that.
it.
Yeah, and also that as different aesthetically as David Lynch and Steven Spielberg are, there is that same journey to Oz element in a lot of their work. Yeah, I think that's, the Oz influence is very on display in
Totally.
Hook as well. Rob, do you have any points of comparison?
Yeah. So I was just trying to think of like not only what reminds me of it, but what hits me sort of like in the same feels. And I played Bert in Mary Poppins a while ago, and it was
I thought about Mary Poppins.
yeah, and when I did it, the director on opening night on all of our dressing room stations was an index card. And he said, I need you to write something on the index card that you need to let go of. No one will ever see this index card but you, but I want you to write on the index card something that you personally need to let go of. So we all did, and there was a hole punch in the corner of the index card, and he's like, okay, meet me outside at half hour. So we all go outside, and the 2 Banks children in the story are holding like 50 balloons, and we all had to tie our index card to the balloons and let them go.
Oh, wow.
And we all had a moment of like, what is it about the act of flying? What is it? Why is that something that we all seek out, that we all dream about, that we all have this like fantasy of. And I thought that very much tied into the themes of Hook. But then as I was making that comparison, I said, oh my God, Peter Banning is Mr. Banks in Mary Poppins.
Oh,
they go on the exact same journey and find their redemption in a moment of flight because he takes his son out to fly a kite.
Absolutely.
There is something about the abandon of flight and that grown businessman learning how to play again.
Nice.
Very cool.
I love that. There's also the fact that Arthur Mallet, who plays Toodles, is in Mary Poppins.
Yes. And David Tomlinson, who played Mr. Banks, also gives such a wonderful... He very much scratches the same itch that Robin Williams is scratching in Hook, where you kind of refuse to believe in the beginning of the movie that he has that sense of childlike play. And it's not until the end of the movie that you go like, oh my God, that was in there that whole time.
Yeah. Well, one more quick one that I'll do that I'm a little surprised that this movie hasn't come up yet in talking about Hook, because it's a movie of similar sensibilities released pretty close in time, which is The Princess Bride.
Okay.
Yeah. And
interesting.
And I think, it's not a direct one-to-one, but the thing that initially made me think of The Princess Bride about Hook was the connection to our reality. That, yes, it has that framing device, if you'd call it that, of the kid being read the story by his grandpa. And I mean, there's a separation between that and the reality of the story. But I think when you're, experiencing the story, you kind of forget that there's this whole other basis for it. There is like the reality that dawns on you with a certain level of maturity blended with that sense of childlike wonder. I think that both movies strike that balance very nicely.
I also, as we're sitting here talking, I'm realizing there's one other comparison to be made just tonally, and that is to Big Fish. I feel like
I was go for it, man. Go for it.
There's an interesting thing happening where I almost feel like the father in Big Fish is the Toodles of this story. That there's something about you get to middle age and you start to doubt your imagination. And Hook looks back to children, but Big Fish looks toward the elderly.
Right.
Yeah.
When I look at the Toodles character in Hook, which everyone thinks is a lunatic, he gets redemption at the end, and everything he ever said was real and right. And we were the crazy ones.
Someone stole his marbles. It's not his fault.
And that has been Comparison Corner.
Yes. So we've already talked to some degree about this general topic. In case there's anything more we want to say, we can just make some space now for the topic of the mix of adult and kid-friendly sensibilities. In this movie, Hook walks an interesting line by having an adult protagonist, and a father at that, on this fantastical adventure with many kids present around him. And what are we thinking? What do we make of this blend, maybe as a reflection of Spielberg and the actors involved, or in the context of kid-friendly entertainment of the time? Do you find this, like, the combination uncanny ever, or maybe kind of standard, or even innovative, ahead of its time?
I think we haven't given enough love to the Lost Boys in this conversation.
Sure.
Because I love the Lost Boys. They're, I think, my favorite part of this movie. We talked a little bit about Rufio earlier, but I think that Peter really needs a champion in this movie. Like, he needs people that believe in him before he believes in himself. And in some ways, you have Tinkerbell fill that role. But I think some of the Lost Boys also fill that role. I think Pockets, the scene where Pockets is like mushing his face around and is like,
there you are.
Like, it's so sweet and it makes me tear up, and it's like one of my favorite moments in the whole film.
Also a great musical cue right there.
Great musical cue as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to shout out how much I love Pockets and Thudbutt and like all of them. I think they're great. And I think that without them, I think that this movie would not be as appealing to children, because you want to hang out with them.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about Thudbutt too?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Thudbutt.
Thudbutt.
He has one of those faces that, like, when he smiles, the whole room gets brighter.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you all hear that in the making of the movie, this is apparently a true story, when Peter is leaving and is choosing his successor to hand the sword to, none of the kids knew who he was going to pick.
Oh.
Yeah, so that actor, the boy who played Thudbutt, like that was his genuine response to being chosen.
That's so sweet. I also, now that you say that, I feel like you can see it in that
Totally.
there's like a kid before he gets to Thudbutt that
The blonde kid.
Yes.
Yeah, that I think thinks that he's it.
Totally. But that's, credit to Spielberg.
Totally.
Yeah. We got to talk about Thudbutt's move, though.
Oh,
Like-
the rolling down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's effective.
It is extremely effective.
It's a phenomenal movie prop.
Yeah.
It is.
It's terrifying, though. Like,
Yeah.
if you look it up, just like a photo of it, not in the film, it is very scary looking.
Meant to be seen in blur,
Yeah.
for sure.
In motion.
I would love there to be like a pinball machine that has that as the pinball.
Oh my God, totally.
$1 million idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if that qualifies for Rob, how you describe, they did that. I just like,
Yes.
that is,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
what it is. Yeah.
For me, the major, they did it moment for me in this movie was the sword fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The difference between good fight choreography and bad fight choreography can really make or break a movie. And I felt like both Dustin Hoffman and Robin Williams looked like $1 million in those fight sequences.
They really do.
It was clear that they really worked their asses off on that stuff because it looks phenomenal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also getting to see Peter Banning be a swashbuckler, like full out, it is really so thrilling. Some of that sword fighting in very long sequences that don't cut away.
Yeah.
So it's not just great cuts. It's they did that.
Right.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my favorite joke in this movie, which is kind of in the big fight scene where Peter is fighting a pirate who's like, "Wait, are you Peter Pan?" And he says yes, and then the pirate jumps out the window. That's my favorite joke in the whole movie.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and it's like that's just another example of characters just getting offed in very nonchalant ways, but because it's a kids movie, that you don't lean into all of the despair that goes with that.
No, the first one to go is the poor pirate standing behind the checkbook. Remember?
That's one of my favorite moments in this whole movie. He's like, "Draw your weapon." And he just pulls out the check.
How much?
How much? I love it. You're
so
right
good.
that he is the first casualty. Although maybe would the Glenn Close character maybe in the boo box count?
You could argue. You don't know if that pirate died.
Right.
Yeah.
But it certainly
Yeah, it feels
sucked.
more just like torture.
Or how venomous those scorpions were.
Good point.
Yeah.
Before we abandon pockets, I want to tell you all, in my household, when we notice the effect of morning coffee
Okay.
take hold,
Uh-huh.
we say to the other person, "There you are, Peter."
I think that is about as good an application of that line outside of the context of the film. That's great.
Wow, very nice. And but in thinking of like this greater blend of like kids and adult sensibilities, I feel like Robin Williams is one of those actors who, like, as you grow up, your perception of him grows too. I think when you look at the span of his career, I mean, even though he's a comedian, a lot of his roles skew more dramatic. But also as you get to know more about him as a person, that like before any of that happened, there was like, him as the working comedian, there was the cocaine addiction, and then there was like the allegations of being a joke thief and stuff like that. And that his legacy, it's one that, the way that like great art, your perception of it evolves with you as you age. I feel like, Robin Williams is an actor who your perception can evolve of too. And then when you know how it ended for him, I mean, I remember thinking like just knowing that happened to begin with was a real like loss of innocence moment, even though it happened
Oh yeah.
in late adolescence for me.
I think that it was like for everyone.
Yeah.
I think you could be a middle-aged person and feel that way just because what he was able to make people feel. He had just an unbelievable gift. And I watched this movie and could anybody else do this role? Like this is on a short list of like, there's nobody else that is even going to do half a good as job as him,
Yeah. One of my favorite Robin Williams moments in the whole movie, and I call it a Robin Williams moment specifically because it's just this really feels like him doing his classic thing, It's going back to something that you were saying earlier, Rob, about the appropriate level of amazement. And I feel like the moment that best captures that in the movie is when Tinkerbell first flies into that bedroom. And I loved this quote so much, I wrote the whole thing down, where Peter says, "You're a complex Freudian hallucination having something to do with my mother. And I don't know why you have wings, but you have very lovely wings. And you're a very nice tiny person. And what am I saying here? I don't know who my mother was. I'm an orphan, and I've never taken drugs because I missed the 60s. I was an accountant."
Very good delivery.
Thank you so much for doing that.
That's also like, I also love, and I would like to credit the screenwriter with this, depending on how, the shaping of it. But like, that is the accountant version of then in Act 2 of the movie, you lewd, crude, rude, bag of pre-chewed food dude.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That is the answer to that section,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got to say, too, I love that first line he drops when he's getting all that stuff hurled at him, like fart factory and everything. But he goes, "Substitute chemistry teacher."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gets me. That was probably the hardest I laughed in this whole movie.
Well, that moment is a good example of like the conflict between adult and kid sensibilities resulting in something potent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it was interesting coming at this, like thinking about that, like, this is Robin Williams being initiated as a kid-friendly star. Whereas, that's something that I've just innately known him to be great at.
Right. He hadn't done Aladdin or Mrs. Doubtfire, which he would go on to do in the next 2 years. Right.
Fun fact, I also haven't seen Mrs. Doubtfire. That's scandalized some people before. I know we got to change that.
Particularly Rob.
Yeah.
6 years of my life.
Yeah, it hit me as I was saying that. It's like, wow, that's going to hit him.
It's okay.
That's not to say I don't want to see it. I do. But, just like watching Hook, I felt so many like echoes. I mean, it's weird to call them echoes, but of things that came after it. And it's funny because like this movie, it didn't necessarily rise to the status of being like, it was more of a cult favorite, but not necessarily something you can say like gains credit for a bunch of what came after it because of its, kind of mixed reception. And yet I was feeling these ripples of like, there was already a Harry Potter reference made. I mean, speaking of Robin Williams, I mean, this is a few years before Jumanji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about Jumanji a lot with the family.
Also, like
the father-son thing going on in that.
The weirdness of time. And also him being like the adult leader of a group of kids who is still very likable to those kids. Yeah, so it's just funny to think about that being at the beginning. But I feel like what's great about him as an actor is that he can just kind of do his innate thing. And it fits equally well in something meant for adults as much as something meant for kids.
Well, you know what? I want to come back to that point, Rob. I'm so glad you mentioned that freak out that he has. He's on the phone and he's this deal is falling through. And if I wasn't in London, I would have sealed this and I wouldn't be worrying about it. And his kids are asking for his attention. And he just that moment to me landed in a huge way. That is the power of Robin Williams as a performer is he can give you all of the happy thought, joy, enthusiasm, and you're right in the palm of his hand. He can do all of the food fight, hurling back, name calling, all of that. But then he can deliver that moment. And that is such an important moment because that feels like the break. Not just for his character, but for his connection with his kids. Like something breaks there that needs to get repaired. And the movie is about the repair of that moment.
Absolutely.
And he totally sells it. I
defy you. Like if you're a family person, if you're a parent, when he is sword fighting, first of all, her going, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," when he's like sword fighting and she's like, "Oh my God, he's fighting pirates." But then as he's like fighting them off, him saying like, "And I found my happy thought. And you know what it was?" And he flies up to his little face and says, "It was you." I could cry right now.
Dude, that got me in the biggest way too. Yeah.
And that is the payoff of the phone freak out.
Yeah.
Right. Like that. Yeah. That is the moment where he redeems himself to his child, Yeah. It's just powerful stuff. And I also think a large amount of this film's success is due to, again, John Williams. The work he's doing thematically, the introduction of the pirate themes underneath what's happening at Wendy's house in the beginning, as you're seeing the hook latch on the window door to the nursery,
love that
as
detail.
you're seeing
Yeah.
the planting of seeds of those themes of the hook theme.
Yeah.
And then going into that the memory theme, the ba da 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 ba da da da, which is always reflection. And then when you get into Peter Pan's flight, ba da 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 ba da da, like John Williams being tasked with write the sound of Peter Pan flying. That's it. Like, he's doing so much heavy lifting. Even I think of the chord he created the moment the food hits his face.
Yes.
Yeah.
That musical sting, how much amazement is John Williams lifting in that moment for us? The amount of, hair standing on the back of my neck in this movie that is solely responsible, that he's solely responsible for. And it's another example of, him and Spielberg's prolific relationship.
Yeah.
All right, I think this is as good a time as any. Rob, you've actually been one of 3 past guests and friends of the pod who've recommended that we do Hook. And I wanted to shout them out and give them a moment to share a little bit about why Hook is special to them, but also pose a question that we could consider ourselves.
Hi, Emilio, Julian, Madeline, and Rob. It's your pal, Mike Duquette. I'm so glad you've done a podcast episode about Hook. Now, I've done episodes on E.T. and Jaws with you, so you know the films of Steven Spielberg mean a lot to me, and Hook is no different, not just because I'm a millennial dad. It was the second film I ever saw in a movie theater after the animated sequel, An American Tail, Fievel Goes West. Now, it's impossible to discuss Spielberg without discussing film composer John Williams. Maestro Williams' scores for Jaws, Close Encounters, the Indiana Jones films, E.T., Jurassic Park, all are some of the most recognizable soundtracks of all time. But Hook is one of his career highlights. I don't think we talk about it enough. The lyricism of its themes is no accident. The film was seriously considered, I don't know if you know this, seriously considered to have more of a musical structure at some point. Leslie Bricusse, who wrote the lyrics to Somewhere in My Memory, which John wrote for Home Alone, and songs for films like Dr. Dolittle and Willy Wonka, the two of them collaborated on a number of songs that ultimately just became great themes. So we were sort of robbed of Steven's first great musical until West Side Story came along. But lyrics or not, it's an evocative score that enhances my viewing of this film, which I will certainly be reviewing around Christmas time. And I would love to hear from you about what you think about this music and how it enhanced your watching of this film as well. Thank you so much, and I'm wishing each of you a happy holiday and a prosperous new year ahead.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
So delightful.
He is a delightful person and one of the biggest Spielberg heads
On the planet.
Yeah.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. This score is one that I think really grows on you. Spielberg obviously worked with John Williams for Jaws. And I know that initially Spielberg was like, I want something a little more minimalist, a little more tonally jarring. And John Williams was the one who was like, dude, this is a pirate movie. And scored Jaws more in that spirit. And I kind of love that eventually they came to work on a pirate movie. But I also wanted to point out one other thing that I think is really cool. And yeah, Rob, you were mentioning the themes earlier. I'm going to reference something that I talked about when we talked Home Alone. There is a wonderful podcast called The Soundtrack Show. And the host of that show mentioned something really interesting about Somewhere in My Memory, which is the theme for Home Alone, which is that has this minor third interval, da, 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 right? And I noticed that the Peter Pan theme in Hook is the same. It starts with the da 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 da, and then what I love and I think is very thematically interesting is that when that theme comes back, it's pulling away from that interval because it goes like da 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 da, and to me, I read it and I go like, oh, that is you pulling away from childhood.
Yeah.
But the way that theme continues to come back. Childhood is always present, no matter how much it's pulling away. And I'm choosing to imprint that on this score and just use that as more fuel to say that John Williams is the GOAT.
Yeah.
He just is. It's like beautiful and so good.
Well, to respond to what you just said there, I think the way that melody is structured strongly evokes Luke Skywalker's theme from Star Wars, where you have and then this big climax, and then it kind of closes back in after that. And, that plays over the iconic scene of him looking at the two setting suns on Tatooine. There's a very similar thought that can go with that of like, I know I'm home and I'm looking beyond it now. But, speaking of a Star Wars connection, I mean, this just kept hitting me every time that theme played during the movie, that da, 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 da. If you subtract the repeat of the first two notes, that is almost note for note a theme that John Williams uses again in Attack of the Clones specifically. It becomes Padme Amidala's character theme. Da, 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 da. And
interesting.
I don't know how much it was like a conscious recycle versus just what he had in mind at that moment. But I found it interesting that this foreshadows a prominent melody from later in his career. It's harder for me to pinpoint it, but I remember thinking too, like speaking of later films that John Williams would also score, that there was a flourish like in the scene when you don't see Captain Hook, but it's clear that he is arriving at Granny Wendy's home and he's about to abduct the children. Like, I think
that whole sequence. Oh
yeah. And that like I think it was during the shot when it's that pan around the ship in the bottle. There was something there that made me think of the Harry Potter score.
I thought that exact same thing, and I'm like you. I wasn't able to pinpoint it, but that hit my ear. And
can I tell you what I think it is? I think that there's this really great explanation John Williams made about the opening theme of Harry Potter, and he wanted something. What was the word he used? Gossamer is the term he used.
Great word.
And he was saying that he wanted the opening sequence to sound like, when he was writing Hedwig's theme, that sounded like an owl feather sort of blowing in the wind. Wow. So he got a celeste, which is that piano that is actually a series of bells inside, and you can like step on the pedal and blur the bells together. But in that flight, he would play the celeste on a blur with sustain pedal, and there would be those sort of blurry like, and I think there's a little bit of that in Captain Hook's ship is coming.
Nice.
That might be what's recalling that for you.
Maybe.
But can I also say, this whole section would suck if y'all weren't good singers. Congratulations.
Yes, great performances.
Thank you.
Everybody's got pitch, which is really an extra credit for this podcast.
Well,
thank you,
Rob, hearing that from you is quite the compliment.
But also, while we're talking about Star Wars, for anyone who might be watching this who doesn't know this, if you are enjoying Hook, there's this beautiful moment where Robin Williams is being carried to Neverland for the first time, and excess fairy dust falls off of him.
Oh my God.
And hits a kissing couple on the bridge who begin to fly. And not everyone knows this, but many people do, that is famously George Lucas and Carrie Fisher in that embrace. They made an uncredited cameo in the movie, and that is the two of them who are the kissing couple on the bridge.
Yeah, I did know this.
Yeah.
This
I
is
didn't know
something
That's
that
cool.
comes up a lot on a comedy show that I watched a lot of during COVID, because they were doing a lot of live shows called the George Lucas Talk Show, and it's not actually George Lucas; it's like a comedian who's playing George Lucas, and this is an ongoing bit. So I've seen people learn this information many times, because pretty much whenever they would have a guest, this would come up. And it always.
I love it so much. But while we're talking about these themes, it would be remiss of me. Very, very often, as I'm beginning to write, I will listen to the prologue from the soundtrack of Hook. It's in a 1:30 prologue. It's a masterclass in intersecting themes, because we hear That ba-ra-ra-ra-ra. We also hear that ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum-bum-bum-bum,
Yeah.
which also sounds
The pirate or the Jolly Roger
it's the
theme.
Jolly
or
Roger
something?
pirate theme, which also to me harkens to the Nazi theme in Indiana Jones. If you go back and listen to that theme, it's sort of like a march that's similar, but similar to that theme, you also have the that we've been dealing with that interval, but then also you've got that and what that prologue teaches you is that all of those melodies can sit on top of one another and are musically sound. So when you're looking at a movie where your protagonist is on a plane in the beginning and the voice of the captain on the plane is Captain Hook, as Dustin Hoffman, and where the sweep outside of the house at the end is Smee. These characters are never far away from each other. And in his theme building that they are intertwined is so dramaturgically beautiful. And I think it's one of the reasons why not only is the score so beautiful, but so deeply cohesive, because he was tying those characters together in our ears before we even meet them.
Excellent.
I
well
love
beautiful.
everything you just said.
Also, just, you know what else is well said? The fact that you said musically sound.
Hey.
We here on this podcast will always shout out when things like that happen.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, I just had to say too that regarding that cameo of George Lucas and Carrie Fisher, that even if you know it's them, it's kind of knowing it that really makes that moment for you, because their faces are difficult to make out.
Totally.
Pun intended.
Hey. There's one other fun like celebrity appearance in this movie that I heard in a random interview. I'm a big fan of Jim Cummings, the voice actor, who did all of the Winnie the Pooh characters and Darkwing Duck and, you know, every voice from your childhood.
Let's Get Dangerous. Yeah.
Yes, Let's Get Dangerous. But Jim Cummings said in an interview recently that he was pulled into a booth for all of those hook, where's the hook?
Oh, wow.
Hook. It's just him. He's just looping different pirate voices on himself, and that all of those chants are Jim Cummings in a booth.
Wow.
Looping
They
on
definitely
himself.
saved some money on the voice acting.
That always made me think of Wizard of Oz, like the
Me too.
Totally.
I also love the shot that scene ends with, the close up of the hook itself with the lightning around it.
Yeah.
Ace in the hole there.
Wonderful. We got one more question.
Hello there. I'm Tara. I'm one of the co-hosts from Down the Yellow Brick Pod. It's a pleasure to be popping by in this Hook episode, to be leaving Oz and coming into Neverland, because Hook is one of my top most influential films. I remember seeing it in movie theaters when I was, I think, 3 years old. Absolutely incredible, to the point where it lives in my daily vernacular. Often I work with kids now, and if any child is having an emotional outburst, I'll usually look at a fellow employee and say, "The children are screaming." And if they get the reference, I like them a little bit more. But yeah, I love Hook. I love Grandmother Wendy. I want it to be Maggie. I used to sing her little song all the time. I want it to go to this Neverland. And it always killed me to hear that this was not one of Steven Spielberg's most favorite films to make, because it really was a gift to me as a kid who grew up with it and just loved it so much. But one thing that blew my mind that I recently found out, I did not know as a kid, was that this movie was originally propositioned to be a musical film. And that is fascinating to me. And then I thought, what a fun question. If Hook were to be made into a musical today, like, who would we want to see in the cast? So I'd love to pose that question, and I will give this as like a tiny taste of my answer. And I guess you could pick any musical theater performer. It doesn't matter what timeline you're on. You could do from now someone who'd make sense right in this moment, or you can rewind the clock of the time dragon, as we say in Wicked language, to another timeline in Broadway. So maybe this wouldn't make much sense at this moment, but maybe 10 years ago, maybe still. I think first ever Fiyero from Wicked, Norbert Leo Butz would make a fantastic Peter Banning. I think he'd be so great if there was a musical version of this. I would love to hear any other casting choices if you all are down, like who would play Hook. That's a huge, huge tall order to ask there. Maybe who would play Tinkerbell. Would love to hear it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for having me pop in. I can't wait to listen to the rest of this episode.
Tara, thank you so much. That was a great question.
Tara.
Yeah, what a question.
I have something.
Go for it.
I think the person that jumps out to me for Hook would be Christian Borle.
Okay.
You know, my familiarity with him is seeing him in Something Rotten, playing William Shakespeare. And he's kind of the villain in that show. But I think one of the things that I think about when I think of Hook is there's like a playfulness to him. And there's a winking humor, I think, that Dustin Hoffman gives that character. And I think that's like one of the real skills that Christian Borle has. Like, I think he's very good at conveying humor while also being kind of mischievous and kind of a dirtbag. And his characters, by the way, not him as a human being. So I'm going to elect Christian Borle for Hook. I think he'd make a great one.
You're not far off because he played Black Stash / Hook in Peter and the Starcatcher
Yes.
on Broadway.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Yes.
I think Danny Burstein could be a great Hook.
Okay.
If anybody knows his work, he's just got balls. You know what I mean? He's not afraid of a big dramatic swing. Anybody who knows him from playing Adolfo in Drowsy Chaperone, or he's just not afraid to really go for it dramatically. I think Alex Brightman would be a great Smee.
I could see that for sure.
Yeah. My knowledge of musical theater, and especially who is current in musical theater, with one very notable exception with us, it's limited, but not, non-existent.
Let's go timeless.
So yeah, but I have some people I can name who are of the moment. The name that's coming to me for Tinkerbell is Renee Elise Goldsberry.
Interesting.
Yeah. I feel like she would be able to ground that character in a way that was perhaps difficult given the circumstances surrounding Julia Roberts in this film. But to have like that faster cadence of speaking while still like really landing a lot of the dramatic beats and the range of emotion that she can effectively display. That's my thought at the moment. The main place, admittedly, the main place I know her from it's very specific, but for people of a certain ilk, I think they would find this appropriate, is from the Documentary Now episode Co-op.
Yes.
Which I have a guitar student who's an actor, and he says he personally considers that to be the greatest piece of media about musical theater ever made.
So funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as it happens, there's someone else in that. Well, Alex Brightman's in that, isn't he? Yeah.
He sure is.
The guy who's singing, "I had a little cocaine tonight."
Yes. That's him.
And there's another person who's in that episode too, who we also talked about a little bit off mic before we started recording, who I think actually could play a pretty good Smee, which is Richard Kind.
That would be great.
Of course.
Yeah. To hear Richard Kind going, "Good morning, Neverland." I've got to see it.
Totally. My answer for Hook may just be in my mind because of the last episode that Rob was on, but I think Kevin Kline would be a really fun Hook.
Oh, yeah.
That is a phenomenal choice.
He was in Pirates of Penzance, so he's no stranger to pirates. So
I actually think that is the answer. That is so good.
Wow.
Very cool.
So I'm very happy with Kevin Kline. And for Tinkerbell, I'm going to go for something a little different and very recent. I think Paula Scola would make a really fun
Oh my God. I'm like mad I didn't think of that. I'm very happy
really
you did.
Good. That's really good. I will also say it's such a shame that we lost her, because who would not want to see Angela Lansbury's Granny Whaley?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great pick. Oh my gosh.
Good one. Yeah.
No, that's really good. That's a real good one.
I'm going to selfishly say that if this happens, Hook the musical happens, you better believe I'm going to be pounding on that Peter Banning door.
Rob,
Rob,
write it
you
and
too.
nominate as Peter Banning. Rob should be Peter Banning.
You took the words out of my mouth, Rob. I could see it in a heartbeat, man. I think he would make a great Peter Banning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason why I would really actually fight for it is because one of the things I pride myself on in my work is a sense of play.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that is essential to anyone who's going to be playing that part.
100%.
Great
I
point,
think
yeah.
so too. Can I call back something? I was talking a little bit earlier with my wife Elizabeth, and she said something to me that I wrote down, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to have a place in this conversation, but based on what you just said, I just want to shout out my lovely wife on this. She said, quote, "Being an artist is about finding your inner child and letting that child feel safe to play with abandon." And I think that would qualify for you, Rob, in a big way.
That is, first of all, she is spot on and like so worships at the same altars that I do. Like that is so right on. When I teach, the first thing I do is I make people play pretend. Like I make them actually play like cops and robbers again.
Mhm.
Because like if you can't fully play the way you did when you were 4 years old and no one was watching you. For me, it was Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters on my lawn.
Yeah.
If you can't do that without worrying about what the people in the cars going by are thinking of you fighting invisible foot soldiers on your lawn, you can't play Peter Banning.
Absolutely.
And if you go YouTube the footage of Benedict Cumberbatch doing the motion capture for Smaug, and tell me how he could have achieved that if he was worried about what people would think about him in a gray jumpsuit covered in ping pong balls going like, I can smell you. If you're worried about what you look like, it ain't going to happen. You have to hearken back to 4-year-old you who didn't care.
Yeah.
That's genuinely heartwarming to hear.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've hit this moment. I want to make a little bit of space for being able to shout out just some fun moments, notable details, because this movie's full of them. It really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, one set decoration detail that we haven't mentioned yet, but that I honestly first watch and then the partial rewatch I did for the conversation, I loved this both times, is that when Peter and Granny Wendy and Moira come back to Granny Wendy's house after they've been at that fundraiser, the scratch mark that Hook has left along the entire staircase.
The whole staircase, yeah.
Yeah, just like perfect set design and decoration. It's, love it.
It's menacing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's also indisputable what weapon caused that damage.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes.
You know that he didn't send Smee or like a minion, like another pirate. You know he was there.
Mhm. Love it.
Yeah.
Great call there.
Oh, while we're on this subject, who is the weird guy who they say came in and took his baseball under the pillow?
Yeah,
who do
I
we
was
theorize
thinking,
that is?
Supposed to be Hook.
Because he said he claimed he was washing the
He was
windows.
a window washer.
Yeah.
And given this that Smee is sweeping the street at the end, it's Smee sort of scouting.
Interesting.
That's my theory on who that person was.
When does the baseball come back? Like, he gets the baseball back. So I'm just curious. I'm trying to remember how and when he gets it. But I feel like we see him with it in Neverland.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's the same baseball that he's like, yes, you are. You're afraid you're going to be sucked out.
Yes, exactly.
It's the one he brought from home.
Yeah.
I have to admit, just the parent in me did creep up a bit where I'm like, that is some obnoxious behavior. Like, and
I'm not a parent, and I'm still like, no kid better be doing that on any planes I'm on.
Exactly.
I felt that too while watching.
Can't help it.
Yeah. And also going back to where this movie falls in time. I just found it funny that this is the movie that Spielberg makes right before Jurassic Park, and that there's that line that Peter says that, ask them if anybody misses the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes, you're right.
And then the kid in the back is like, I do. Are you kidding?
I do.
Which again,
That'd be
felt very
great.
impromptu.
Yeah.
Big time.
Just that little bit of foreshadowing.
I also love in that whole sequence when he's doing the dinosaur thing raw, and there's a nod to the shadows of the nursery
Yeah.
in
Yes,
the original
yeah.
Peter Pan. I just love that whole sort of foreshadowing of the shadows and
foreshadowing.
all
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. We're on a roll here.
One little moment that I love, Rob, you mentioned the hook clasp. I love the visual moment where Peter goes to close the window and he turns around and he's in that akimbo stance.
Oh, it's
It's
great.
so subtle, and I never realized it until watching it this time, but I'm like, wow, like we're talking about foreshadowing, just push things a little further along.
Because every other time he entered that window and closed that clasp, he was Peter Pan.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. I love it.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like he's closed that clasp thousands of times, hypothetically, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love
Wow.
it. Yeah.
I like how, Dustin Hoffman is a smaller man. He's wearing
Yeah.
heels through much of this movie to make him slightly taller than like Smee and a lot of the other pirates. But I like during the fight scene when Peter says something to him like, "Oh, you always seemed bigger before," and Hook says to a 10-year-old, "I'm huge."
Yeah.
Just like the meta element of that with like Dustin Hoffman himself being kind of a smaller guy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Can we also just talk about how quotable this movie
Oh,
is?
yes.
Like there's so many good ones. Like I love I Want to Die. Oh, not again.
Also, I had to write down Smee's introduction of Captain Hook. A man so deep,
Yes.
he's almost unfathomable. A man so quick, he's even fast asleep.
I love
Now
that.
let's give him a very big hand, because he's only got one.
Love it.
Also, just have to shout out, I enjoy it. I mean, because like actors from England, from Scotland, from Ireland, so often have to play American. I enjoy it whenever an American actor has to play, usually British.
Totally.
Yeah, I can't think of good examples right now of like American actors playing Irish or Scottish necessarily, but American actors playing British, even if ambiguously. And so like Dustin Hoffman holding that accent down, I'm truly impressed by that.
And as a kid, I couldn't tell whether Bob Hoskins was American and did a British accent for Hook, or whether he was British and did an American accent for Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Because they were both so good.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a big loss. I remain a huge fan
Oh,
of
for
Mhm.
sure. 100%. So this is a small detail that maybe this is going to be super obvious, but you know how there's that track that's all
For the skateboard.
for the
Yeah.
skateboard that has like the kind of sail or kind of like wings on it or something.
Yeah, the Moana
The
boat.
Moana. Thank you. It occurred to me this time that was probably constructed as a response to them not having a leader that flies, and that this was
yeah.
their best opportunity
Wow.
to get a little bit of that.
I love that.
Yeah, it never occurred to me until this time, and I'm like, I love that.
That
Yeah.
that was Rufio's answer to not being able
Exactly.
to fly. That's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
That also just makes me think of when the scene where they put him in the slingshot and all the different Happy Thoughts posters that different kids are holding up, because one just says bugs. It's like birthday.
You're so right. Oh, that's very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the colors. Like the colors in this movie,
Yeah.
there's something about how tactile this movie is
Yeah.
that is like really special.
Oh, yeah.
You would never make a movie this way ever again. But there is something really fun about how vibrant it is.
Well, when you mentioned the colors, I particularly think of the Three Mermaids.
That's
Yes.
a funny little
As
moment
weird
there.
of a scene
It's a
as
weird
that is.
scene, yeah, but that I guess is a redeeming detail of it. But yeah, that's like, we talked a bit about it already, but just the like casual infidelity that comes into these movies sometimes.
What's he supposed to do? Drown?
Yeah.
This is a good point.
Good point.
Exactly. They were saving his life.
Yeah.
And also making out with him. you
Yeah.
know.
Listen, you can't
little-
tie down Peter Pan, okay? The mermaids and
Barrie.
Tinkerbell were trying to, make that happen for a long time.
And
I
yet
guess
there's no
that's true.
suspicion when he comes home at the end.
Yeah,
There's a particular familial line that he is dedicated to.
Yes.
though.
that's true.
He goes back to Moira.
Mhm. He does. He does.
The last little detail I want to shout out, I'm honestly surprised this hasn't come up yet, but the mustache twitch.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
with the ticking of the clock.
Yeah.
The ticking hand of a clock. It's so
it's very
good.
good.
And in fact, I have sort of tortured myself over how they did that.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody was able to put a little electrical charge in something.
Little wire work there.
Yeah, but
It feels like the sonic droplet of water in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Totally.
That's a good point.
I'm just like synchronizing the sound of the T-Rex scene with that emotion now.
Yes, exactly.
Boom, boom.
I wanted to shout out Hook's Rage Room. Just we're talking about the clocks. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it made me
The museum.
Yeah, it made me also just think about how if you ever went antique shopping with your mom or your grandmother or grandparent.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. But like you'd walk into these places and you would hear them say, "Don't touch anything," or be very and well, you just told me to not touch anything, so I want to touch and destroy everything. Like, what would happen if I did? And I kind of love that this movie is a little bit of that wish fulfillment, or fantasy fulfillment. Yeah,
and I love the kid in that scene. Like, I think him like in the corner, kind of clutching the clock, just like watching Hook go insane, is also like a highlight moment for me.
Yeah,
cool.
I will say I remember for a talent show when I was a kid I did impressions. I will never forget as long as I live. Don't try to stop me, Smee. Don't you dare try to stop me this time, Smee. Don't you dare try to stop me this time, Smee. Try to stop me, Smee. You better get up off your ass. I'm committing suicide.
That's so spot on. I mean, I should not be surprised, but it's like a real treat to hear that.
Yeah.
That whole sequence as a kid just delighted me. This guy who's like, I'm going to kill myself again. And the other guy being like, Jesus Christ.
And he's like, oh, no, I guess he's not. Oh, I guess it's my fault.
Yes. I remember as a kid being so upset that it ended with the destruction of his toy Jolly Roger because I wanted that toy Jolly Roger so badly.
Oh, I could see that.
The fact that he shot it and it lights on fire and sinks, I was like, oh, that means that prop doesn't exist anymore because I want it.
Yeah.
I just remembered one quick thing. I have to ask you guys. So, time in Neverland.
Mm-hmm.
This is a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So Tinkerbell asks for a week to get Peter Banning into Peter Pan. She ends up getting 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot. Like, what is a day in? I want to know what a day in Neverland is.
Oh, that's so interesting that you ask that. It's so interesting that you ask that. And I wish I had the J.M. Barrie. I have it downstairs. This is worth it. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back.
Sweet.
A few moments later.
You're back.
You're back.
Yes, I have my highlighted version of the Barrie.
Oh, come on. Amazing.
Wow.
One of the things I love about the Barrie book is the whimsy with which the narrator speaks.
Mm.
Even just the way he talks about Nana being the dog being their nanny. It just has a sense of play that is so good. Just a second. I know I highlighted it because I couldn't believe it. It was basically talking about that time is sort of measured in adventures and that there would be time in one day for you to be able to cross the seas and have defeated pirates and make it home for dinner and like that the day ends when the adventure is over.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I kind of love
that it's proportionate to the beginning, middle, and end of the adventure of that day.
I was asking that question in a bit of a cheeky manner, but I love how you really brought a knowledge bomb to us on that. All right. What do you guys say? Unlikely shared universe?
I'm ready.
You're ready?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Does anybody mind if I start?
Go for it.
Go for it.
Alrighty. It's no surprise that Captain Hook has grown tired of his lot in life. His entire identity distilled to being the put-upon adversary to a punk kid and his gang of fellow punk kids. Deep down, seeing Peter return as a grown man makes him realize just how pitiful this existence is. And so while he agrees to Tinkerbell's terms that they can have his quote-unquote war, unlike the clocks in Neverland, the gears are turning in Hook's head, and he devises a way out of this life that he has grown to loathe. We see that he has an understanding of actual reality and that he's plucked Peter's kids from there. And that crocodile in the square, ostensibly a trophy to him. I actually think that is actually a portal that he has designed so that he can travel from Neverland to reality. So when that war with Peter and the Lost Boys happens, he successfully brings the heart of the action over to the square, and I think he orchestrates his own death. I mean, let's be honest, he just disappears when that open-mouthed taxidermied crocodile lands on him.
It's very mysterious.
It is.
Yeah.
Where did he go? I say that he actually goes into reality world. I think he goes to London, where he ditches the pirate garb and the facial hair, and he makes a go at it as a civilian. He's clearly got some nice loot he's saved up, over the years as a pillaging pirate, and he takes that money, he puts it into higher education. What does he study? Literature. You see, while he is inhabiting reality, he knows that he is a fictional character written by someone, meant to be imaginary, but savvy enough to somehow cross over and, inhabit reality. With this lived experience and several degrees, he becomes a renowned professor across the pond in the United States, now under a new name, Jules Hibbert, another name that starts with H, I might add. He enjoys a second act as a venerated academic and becomes fascinated when he's approached by a flustered IRS agent named Harold Crick, who is hearing a woman's voice in his head narrating his every move and thinks that he's going mad. With his knowledge of writing, reality, and existing in these liminal spaces, Hibbert takes Harold's plight seriously, suggesting that he very well may be a writer's creation come to life. And while he doesn't divulge the fact that he too is a fictional character living in his writer's reality, Hibbert does what he can to help Harold come to terms with the truth, an existential crisis he knows all too well, and perhaps even exert his influence and will himself into a better and meaningful conclusion, the kind of conclusion that Hibbert, as Hook, so deeply desired.
I don't know. I have a guess.
No, I know this.
Do it.
I haven't seen this movie, but I watched this trailer. And I was like, I should watch this. This is Stranger Than Fiction.
It is.
That was my guess.
Hey, nice.
It is Stranger Than Fiction. That is a great movie, by the way.
Cool.
When I watched the trailer, I was like, I really want to see this. It looks great.
Yeah, I feel like dramatic Will Ferrell. I'm curious to delve more into that too.
I wholeheartedly recommend Stranger Than Fiction. But yes, Dustin Hoffman, who plays Hook, also a character in this film. I think it goes potentially well if you're willing to go there.
Nice. And it's funny too that character named Jules Hibbert, that's very close to the name of the doctor on The Simpsons, Julius Hibbert.
Ah.
Yeah. Wonder if there was
a reference there.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, or some homage, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I've got one if I may go next.
Go for it, man.
Go for it.
All right. So, we talked a little bit about Captain Hook. Now let's talk about Smee. So it's established that the denizens of Neverland live in a sort of suspended time, and that their reality is hazily linked to the world as we know it. However, as Captain Hook and his band of pirates must wait for what feels like an eternity for a new encounter with Peter Pan, Hook's deputy, Mr. Smee, inevitably starts to feel a little bored after a while, and manages to convince Captain Hook to grant him a hiatus to explore the world beyond Neverland and the passions he may have repressed. Smee's travels begin with promise, but eventually land him somewhere he did not expect to arrive, in an ultra-modern cityscape of similarly imprecise location to the land from which he came. Given the labyrinthine structure, both physical and bureaucratic, of this futuristic society, Smee initially feels trapped and decides to make the best of his situation by leaning into his talent of servitude and finding employment in this government's central services as a heating engineer, whilst assuming another name beginning with S, that would be Spore. As a newly minted government shill, Spore soon becomes aware of the exploits of a saboteur and rival heating technician named Harry Tuttle, and part of his work in maintenance comes to involve the staving off of Tuttle's sly acts of resistance. And after an extended period in this corner of existence, Spore realizes that he may have reached his limit when a suspicious client named Sam Lowry, a self-professed stickler for paperwork, requests a 27B/6 from Spore and his partner when they are about to check on his flat, only for them to return with an H2206 authorizing the requisition of said flat, and then be embarrassed on the job by none other than the infamous Harry Tuttle. After this point, Spore decides he has had enough of the world beyond Neverland and makes a desperate effort to return to his life as Smee and rejoin his beloved Captain Hook in Neverland. And in the wake of Smee's long-term absence and the news of one Peter Banning paying a visit to Granny Wendy, Hook and Smee realize it is time to bring some action back into their previously miserable lives by kidnapping Banning's children and challenging him to reclaim his abandoned identity, as Captain Hook hopes to reclaim his honor. I could tell by one reaction here that someone knows who this is, or what movie this is.
I'll open it up to the floor. Does anybody else know?
No, I kind of thought you were going to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
So did I. That's what I thought the Labyrinth was going to be.
Me too. I thought for a minute.
I strongly considered it, but then I realized this was in the Bob Hoskins filmography, and I had to go for it.
Yeah. So this is Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch that one. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. It played at the Film Forum this summer, so I rewatched it about 3 months ago. Yeah, just a wild ride from start to finish. That's one of those movies where if you like see it, you can, and you know a few movies that it influenced, you can immediately see the ripples.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, mine will not be difficult, but I think it will be fun. So, Tinkerbell was Peter's best friend and companion for many years in Neverland, and she was a bit heartbroken when he chose not to return. So let's say she stayed in Neverland with the Lost Boys for a while, but she soon found it too painful to constantly be reminded of Peter. So she told the boys that she needed some time away and set off to find a new home that was the near opposite of Neverland, rural Maine. Now, when she was occasionally spotted, she found that the inhabitants of this area were not nearly as accepting of fairies as other places she had traveled, so she decided to disguise herself as a spider. Over time, she perfected her arachnid appearance and behavior so much that she was soon indistinguishable from other spiders, so long as one didn't look too closely. She even learned to spin webs out of fairy dust and settled in a barn where she befriended a cast of various farm animals, introducing herself as Charlotte. She takes a particular liking to a pig set for slaughter, as his rambunctious nature reminds her of a young Peter. Determined to save her new friend, she begins to weave compliments for the pig into her web, becoming a media sensation. However, as her friendship for the pig grows, she begins to yearn for her true home of Neverland and the company of the Lost Boys. She still wants to give her pig friend something to remember her by, and when she finds an abandoned egg sack by another spider, she passes it off as her own, with the hope that these eggs will produce new friends for the pig. She tells him that she is dying, but after they say farewell, she sheds her spidery disguise and sets off towards the second star to the right.
I love it.
That is so good.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think you said the two words of that title separately in your description.
That's true. I did do that.
Now, that's Charlotte's Web. Now,
Yes.
Is there a newer version of this film with Julie Roberts voicing?
2006, apparently.
Okay.
I remember that, yeah.
Which I feel like I haven't ever seen. I think I've only seen the cartoon
I've
one
only seen
myself.
the cartoon one too.
I didn't see this movie, but I remember when it was out.
And
Yeah.
I feel like the voice of the original Charlotte is kind of a big name actress, and I'm looking it up right now.
While you look that up, I will say that Charlotte's Web was the first play I was ever in.
Oh.
I think I was 7, and I played one of the baby spiders at the end.
Oh.
That's amazing.
Oh, so you're
I have
speaking
a
from
lot of fondness
experience
for
here.
Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, I love that. It was Debbie Reynolds,
Oh.
the
yeah.
voice of the
Of course.
original Charlotte. I love that.
Thank you.
In terms of unlikely connections, because of this other thing that I'm writing that takes place in the Neverland universe, as I was trying to do unlikely connections, I just kept continuing to write my story.
Well, we're
So-
happy we helped you get some work.
Yes. One day I will come back and we can do the unlikely connection from Hook to the story that I
Oh,
Woo.
that's fantastic. I
Yeah,
love that.
making some ripples here.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, we did it. We talked Hook. We really talked Hook, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody have any final things we want to say about Hook?
I'm glad that there's been like this really just warm spirit to this whole conversation, because this is a movie that, like, you know, it's met a lot of different reactions over time. Certainly become a cult favorite, but then, well, Madeline, I know you and I both listened to the Blank Check episode about Hook in preparation for this, and in that one there was even a mix of perspective amongst the amongst all of the people involved there, and not out of a sense of bias in favor of the movie, but in just, you know, the sheer aura, I'm using that word again, of appreciation that we have all created by discussing it. I feel like this is indicative of the legacy of, you know, really the best parts of the film's legacy. And I personally feel like this is the reaction it deserves. I'm glad to have been a part of this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And as the most recent viewer of the movie among us, that warms my heart that it still casts the spell. You know what I mean? The spell that I thought I was under when I was 9. And, you know, whenever you go back and you watch a movie from your childhood that you thought was amazing, there's always like the horror.
Yeah.
When it's not the movie you remember it was.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was at Target, and in like a bargain bin was the movie Little Monsters with Howie Mandel and Fred Savage from when I was a kid. And I was like, I love this movie. And I went home and put it on, and I was like, what have I done?
Oh no.
But this is one of those where you go like, oh my gosh, it holds up, right? It's as good as I remember it being. And like when you get to Maggie Smith, who iconically was like 56 years old playing 92.
It's amazing that the makeup they put on her is like exactly how she looks at the end of her life.
It's really wild. But like, I defy you to find like more gravitas than when she wells up and says, "Oh, Peter, don't you know who you are?" Like the stakes are so beautifully high, and I care so deeply about these characters in that universe. And I'm with you. I think the film deserves. Not only do I think it deserves a warmer place in the sort of zeitgeist, but I also think that Steven Spielberg deserves to love it.
Yeah. It's based on one thing you said there. I have to offer a small correction and say that's Dame Maggie Smith.
Oh, that's damn right.
Oh, damn right.
Damn right.
Yeah. I just, anytime one of those dames gets mentioned, I always, you know, feel a little voice in my head forcing that in if it's not already there.
Yes, exactly. My apologies to Dame Maggie Smith.
That's not a real quibble, just for the record. Very well said, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Big time.
Yeah.
I agree. You know, you brought up your Little Monsters reference, and I had a little bit of that going back to this movie because it's been a while since I've seen it. There was a movie that came out last year called I Saw the TV Glow that is kind of about this feeling when you have a really strong emotional connection to something, and then you come back to it and you're like, what? All the magic is gone. And it's interesting. One of the things I just really took away from this movie is how beautifully dialed in a couple really specific moments it is about fatherhood and some of the anxieties that you have as a parent, and also some of the lessons that are there every day. And I feel like this movie really reminded me of that and reminded me to go cherish this.
Yeah.
Because there will be a day where he will want to kick me out of his room. If I step foot in
that monologue, that scene where Moira, the two of them are sitting in the window, and she says to him, there are so few years where they want your attention and they want your affection. And when she says, and you are not paying attention and you are missing it.
Yeah.
Man, did I hear that this time. Yeah.
Big time. Thank you for calling out very specifically that moment, because that was where that resonated. Yeah. And look, if a movie's going to make me feel that way, it has friggin' worked. So all praises to Hook on that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Alrighty. Well, Rob, we cannot thank you enough for your generosity and for all the wonderful perspectives that you bring. You're just a real mensch of a human. I said that at the top, but I really mean that. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for suggesting this movie to us.
You are my people. And I see you and I love you for it. And I could do this all day.
Amazing.
Well, we will find a way to wrap this up. But Rob, where can people find you? What are you up to? Yeah, where can our listeners find you?
So that production of Damn Yankees that I just wrapped up at Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. is supposed to transfer to Broadway next year. So keep your eyes peeled for announcements on where and when Damn Yankees is coming back to Broadway. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I am about to do a really cool off-Broadway play that I can't really say too much more about. But it will be announced soon, and that will be running off-Broadway from February to the end of April.
Oh.
And it's really cool and creepy and exciting, and I think people will really get a kick out of it. So you can follow me on Instagram at McClure Rob, and that announcement should be coming soon.
Incredible.
I'm so excited.
I'm waited with bated breath here.
Yeah. That makes three of us.
Very cool.
So in 2 weeks, the next movie we are going to talk about to round off our offbeat holiday film theme is 2015's Tangerine, directed by Sean Baker. This is my choice for this cycle. I am suggesting it. Have either of you seen this movie before? I can't remember.
I have seen it. Yeah.
I have not
You
seen
have
it.
seen it.
No.
Emilio, you have not.
This will be a suggestion for me. Yeah.
I am very excited to talk, and we're talking our second Sean Baker movie, which will be fun. So that'll be in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I haven't rewatched Tangerine since Anora had its big sweep of the Oscars, so I'm really excited to see how it holds up. I know I'm going to like it again, but it's just, knowing where his legacy has gone since then. I'm really curious to see what it'll be like this time.
And I'm excited to experience it for the first time.
Well, in addition to this podcast, you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Sleepless Cinematic Pod. You can contact us via email. We would love to hear from you. Write to us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. You can follow me on Letterboxd at Patroness of Cats.
And you can follow me, Julian, on Letterboxd at Julian_Barthold. If you're listening to us for the first time, thanks so much for finding us. Or if this is the 6th or 7th or 75th time you've listened to us, thank you for sticking with us. We've really grown to love doing this, and it means the world to have our budding listenership grow.
And if you haven't already, we'd ask you, return listener, to please write us a positive review and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. This is one of the best ways for new listeners to find us and help our podcast take its next steps. You can also keep it grassroots. You can tell a friend about the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast. That helps too.
Hold those happy thoughts.